Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Michael Meehan. We warmly welcome the family of Private Charles Powley, whose story will be read shortly. We welcome all the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozieres, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Charles Paley, who was killed at Gallipoli in the First World War. Charles Paley was born in 1894, one of 10 children to Edward and Arabella Paley, Barwa, near Glenrowan in northern Victoria. Known affectionately as Charlie to his family and friends, he attended Wangaratta High School, where he was involved in senior cadets for a number of years. On the eve of the First World War, he was working as a blacksmith at T. Mason Coach and Wagon Builders in Wangaratta. Charles enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force with his older brother, Jack, in Wangaratta just after Australia went to war in August 1914. The pair spent several weeks training at Broadmeadows Camp on the outskirts of Melbourne, after which they embarked for the fighting in Europe with the 1st Australian troop ship convoy in November 1914. Once at sea, the convoy was diverted to Egypt to protect British interests in the area following the Ottoman Turkey's entry into the war. The 7th Battalion spent the following months training at Manor Camp near Cairo, far from the fighting in Europe. The monotony of life in Cairo changed in April 1915 when the Australian and New Zealand troops in Cairo received orders to prepare for an amphibious landing on the Gallipoli Peninsula. The effort would be part of a much broader Allied attempt to breach the Dardanelles by naval force, show Constantinople, and force Ottoman Turkey out of the war. Troops of the 7th Battalion landed at what later became known as Anzac Cove before dawn on the 25th of April 1915, forming part of the second wave attack that came ashore in the area called Fishman's Hut. While most Australian troops had come ashore unopposed, the Turkish platoon occupying the knoll behind Fishman's Hut poured devastating and accurate rifle fire into the 7th Battalion as they rowed ashore. Of the 120 men that packed the first 4 boatloads that landed at Fishman's Hut, just 40 evaded death and wounding. Charles was shot dead as soon as the Paley brothers landed at Anzac Cove. Jack later wrote home from hospital in Egypt describing how, "No words can tell you how heartbroken I am. I knelt down beside him and said goodbye." But he did not answer. Jack's letter describing his brother's death reached the Paley family in Boa several weeks before his parents were notified through official channels, leaving them devastated and angry with the Defence Department for receiving the news in such a way. At age 21 at the time of his death, Charles Paley was buried at number 2 Outpost Cemetery near Fisherman's Hut on Gallipoli. His grieving family inserted the following epitaph in the local newspaper several weeks after his death. "We loved him in life, he is dear to us still. In grief we must bend to God's holy will. Our sorrow is great, our loss hard to bear. The angels will tend our dear Charlie with care." Charles Paley is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Charles Paley, who gave his life for us, for our freedom and the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. The going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.